Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. It's SummerSlam Day. We're all excited. In literally 4 hours, the kickoff show is kicking off, and then an hour after that is the main card. We're all excited here at Wrestling Republic. It's going to be a stacked day of wrestling. But to kick things off, let's talk about last night's episode of SmackDown, the go-home show for SummerSlam, as well as previewing tonight's AEW Collision. Well, then maybe nobody will be watching, but we'll get on to that. But firstly, joining me on the panel today, we have the head of reviewing, the man who's going to be very busy tonight, Coby Galenzoski. How are you, Copster?
I'd be pulling out my hair, but I don't want to mess it up. But at the end of the day, I mean, like you said, tonight's SmackDown, we're all hyped. We're all excited. It's going to be a fun show. Yes, an AEW Collision's happening with a generally bigger match, but of course, we'll get into that in some moments. But I'm here. I'm ready. Tonight's going to be a great night of wrestling, I think.
Absolutely, it will be. It's going to be off the charts. But also joining us, we have another reviewer, the AEW reviewer who's got to watch Collision tonight. And that man is David Sheldon. How are you, David?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing quite well today. The Best Friends Blackpool Combat Club match on Rampage was good. We got Collision tonight. We got SummerSlam tonight. Oh, there was a SmackDown episode as well, wasn't there? Crikey Moses. I mean, look, for a go-home show, I said this before we went on air, a show that is really bad is really fun to talk about. A show that is really good is really fun to talk about. This was just nothing. It was, I can't look at any segment on this show and go, that was bad. But equally, I was just spent the whole show just like, what? This is a go-home episode. Do you know what it felt like? It felt like a taped episode. You know, when WWE go to a different country, and so they do like a secondary episode on the same week, just to kind of a filler episode. That's exactly what this felt like. But they're not. They're in America. You can do a better show than this, guys. Come on. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. I mean, on our reviewing scale, obviously, you know, bad stuff gets rated low, average stuff gets rated in the middle, and then good stuff gets rated, you know, higher. Well, after this, I think maybe we need to put average lower than bad, because this was just, at least bad stuff's good to watch. But also joining us, we have, returning to the podcast, Carter Crisp. How are you, Carter?
How you doing, gentlemen? I'm very happy to be here, and we were talking about this pre-show a little bit. I do agree it was a very mid SmackDown. It was, especially at the end, it was kind of just keeping the story up. But I do have to give a shout out to my guy, LA Knight, for opening the show strong. You know, Mr. LA Knight going, yeah. You know, I mean, it did keep it from being maybe a C plus. I think he pushed it into the B range. So I'll give it to you guys. It was mid, but I thought it was a very strong opening for my boy. So, and I'm very happy to be here too.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you here. And I was definitely a fan of the LA Knight promo. And we'll get onto that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about AEW. AEW Collision, which has very bravely gone head to head with SummerSlam tonight. So that TV rating is going to be interesting. But it's actually, well, especially the main event, it's a decent card. We've got the Acclaimed who are going to come out and speak about, you know, Billy Gunn possibly retiring, possibly not have retiring, you know, whatever. We got Chris Statlander defending the TBS Championship against Mercedes Martinez in a match which, well, has 1 week of build for it. I said last week when we were talking about Collision, me and David, you know, we debated about it. I said, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Mercedes Martinez is going to get a win, and then she's going to get a title shot. Look, it happened the exact week. AEW's women's division is booked week to week. I say it every week. It frustrates me. But something a bit more positive, FTR Wrestling, and they will be defending the AEW World Tag Team Championships against Brian Cage and Big Bill. I actually think this match might surprise people. I really do. Brian Cage, I've been a fan of him for years. He's not been so great in AEW, but he's not been given that much of a chance in AEW either. As for Big Bill, ever since he's left WWE, ever since he's had those health struggles, he has come back and improved so much. He really has. His stuff in Impact, it actually shocked me with how good it was. So I think this match could surprise people. And let's be real, when have we really seen a bad FTR match? But then moving on to the main event of the evening, where the real World Heavyweight Championship will be defended, as CM Punk will be taking on Ricky Starks. And boy, oh boy, am I excited for this one. You guys know me. I love Ricky Starks. I love the 4 pillars, and I love Ricky Starks. I consider Ricky Starks the 5th pillar. He's one of those young talents that AEW has who were just absolutely phenomenal. And this heel turn, I've enjoyed it so far. I said it last week. I'll say it again now. I would have preferred if this match was actually on it All In. I really would. I think this deserves more than 1 week of a build. Maybe they'll do a DQ finish and it'll lead to that. I don't know. But that would be a bit un-AEW-like. But who knows? Collision is a very different show. But yes, the real World Championship will be on the line tonight as CM Punk defends against Ricky Starks. But Coby, give me your thoughts on this one.
Stealing my points, man. That's the biggest question. Is I understand it's still technically a month away. We're I want to say maybe 3 or 4 weeks away from at least one of their big shows, because, like we said, it's All In. Then a week later, it's All Out, and then it's also Payback's in there as well. At the end of the day, it's going to be a loaded 10 days of wrestling.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's the biggest question is, I always pride myself on thinking, what is this match doing book now, and where do we go? What does this match take us from next, and all those logistics? I don't know where they go from here. This is when a couple weeks ago, we're saying, okay, well, we kind of know some direction. We know Punk and Starks could be a match. We know MJF and Cole are going to be a match. At the end of the day, they're putting this match on free TV. It's on TV. And it's like, okay, well, why are they doing it now? And then are they going to do the same thing where they do this now? And then it's like, oh, well, they're going to do a rematch in 3-4 weeks. Well, we just saw this match already. You have to genuinely sell us that either tensions are higher, it's more of a blood feud. You're going to have to put a stipulation on it, at All In or All Out whenever the rematch happens, because that's obviously what's going to happen. But this is the same thing. It's like, why is this happening now and not just build to a bigger show? That's the thing that doesn't make sense to me personally. Because at the end, we're coming into this, and it's like, okay, well, this is already going to be like an afterthought because of SummerSlam, and it's going to be a big event. It's going to be a successful event. WWE's going to make a lot of money, like they always do, like they've been doing for the last, I want to say, year. But I don't know where this goes, and I that's the thing. I want to say, what are they going to do? Punk gets the win. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, there's going to be a rematch because now it's 1-1. Or what's the story? Does Stark steal it tonight? I'd be more interested in Stark stealing the title, and getting that win, and then you actually have to get behind Punk because Starks is being the cheater who took the real world title. I don't know where they go. I'm not interested, but it's just odd.
I'll agree. I'll agree with you completely on that one, Coby. Here's the thing about it, though. Storyline wise, right? Ricky Stark stealing the win tonight, that would make a lot of sense. However, when you look at it from the title perspective, the entire argument for the title is that Punk never lost the title. So if you took it off him, then you're making the storyline even more confusing or whatever. But it's a really difficult one. But David, you're the Collision reviewer. What are your thoughts heading into this Collision show tonight? Do you think it's a good enough card to go against SummerSlam?
I mean, I think I've got 2 points I'd like to make. I'd start on the whole card itself. I think it's a slightly confusing card, and I only say that because I feel like Punk versus Starks, as has been said, is a big matchup. It's a big old match, especially with obviously Ricky Steamboat being involved as well, which is a
Oh,
nice
of
draw
course,
for
yeah.
a nice draw for me and for I'm sure others because I love Ricky. I love both Rickies involved in this match. It's a weird one because you're going up against a show to the magnitude of SummerSlam. That's obviously their attempt to counter-program it. I'm just slightly confused as to why you either don't save that match and kind of put out a filler Collision because you're not going to win anyway, or on the other side, put out a stacked card with like to try and stick it to them, which we know Tony's done in the past. Even if it fails, it's a statement of intent. But like I think FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Cage will be fantastic, but it's not a match that's going to really sell a ticket. Or, it's not going to really sell people to go and not watch SummerSlam and go and watch Collision instead. Same with Statlander versus Mercedes. Should be a good match, but it's not kind of at that same standard as SummerSlam. So I think it's a slightly confusing sort of middle ground show that I don't necessarily think is going to work. With that said, I think it's still a very fun Collision card because I'm going to be watching the show anyway, and I think it's a very fun card. I think there are loads of problems with the CM Punk Ricky Starks feud currently, and I think last week stoked a lot of them. I love Punk, and I thought his promo last week was fantastic. When Ricky came out, I kind of felt like it fell apart, not through any fault of Ricky's, but because suddenly, all of a sudden, all these questions start emerging. Why are we fighting over a title that isn't recognized, but then AEW does recognize it because they're fighting for it, sanctioned on an AEW show? Like, there's so many kind of questions of whose alignments are where, and not really that interesting to me. Punk's kind of where he lies is interesting, but I feel like this whole story's got muddied in waters. I think that this match should be good. I'm just kind of going to let it play out and see where they take it because I've got no idea what happens tonight. I know it'll be a great match because I like their match from the Owen Hart Cup. But yeah, it's just I think the storyline was a big old mess last week, and I hope that they can take some steps to kind of really brush up and tie up some loose ends this week. And I think the all-in match might be CM Punk versus Jay White. And I don't really know why. I just think it might be that, and then Punk Starks again at All Out. I don't know.
I feel like that could be interesting.
Yeah, why put the match on Collision and then put it again at All In? As
no, I mean that is a great point. Now I'll tell you exactly right now why this is such a weird card. Right, Tony Khan has put Punk versus Starks on this to get people who are AEW fans who are unsure to try and edge them towards watching Collision instead. However, he didn't stack the card because if he stacks the card and then it gets a poor rating, that's when it looks bad on him. So he's gone to try and find a happy medium, basically. That'll be what his thought process is. Yeah. But what about you, Carter? How are you feeling going into tonight's Collision? And do you think Tony Khan's done enough to make people want to watch this instead of SummerSlam?
I think it's, I'll make a bold prediction here. I think it's a safe card. It's a solid card. I mean, FTR and Punk, fantastic wrestlers, but I think it's safe. I don't think he's trying to directly compete with SummerSlam. I think he's trying to put on good matches, but I don't see either of the top two matches, titles changing hands. I mean, they're going to be great matches, Big Bill, Brian Cage, great wrestlers, but, I think it's safe, and I think you're right. If Tony stacked the card, it would be a big risk, and I don't think that's a risk worth taking for him right now. He'd be happy, playing nicely with WWE, and it's a solid card. It'll be an exciting show, but I don't think he's trying to directly compete with SummerSlam here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. But now let's head over to the company who, of course, is doing SummerSlam tonight. Let's talk about last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. And the show opened. Well, the show opened with everybody's favorite right now, LA Knight. Yeah! Opening the show with a promo. And I'm going to be honest here, right? A lot of people were mad about this segment because they were saying, well, LA Knight won. That means he's not going to win the Battle Royale. And you might be right. But the fact that he opened the show with a promo, I mean, that's a big honor in WWE to open the show. Especially with a promo. That is a huge, huge honor. So the fact that he did that tells you that he's in line for, at least somewhat of a push. But yeah, it led to Sheamus versus LA Knight, which was, a nice little match. And all the stars who were going to be in the Battle Royale tonight, they were surrounding the ring. and causing chaos. Sheamus got himself distracted, completely his own fault as well. And then LA Knight, took the victory and won the match. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he won a match, but the night before SummerSlam does tell you it's unlikely he's going to win tonight. But Coby, do you think maybe they are just trying to swerve us here?
That's the thing, is they should be. Like, at the end of the day, like I thought, like you said, it's somewhat of a big position to put someone in to open the promo. Like you said, it's either the Bloodline, it's either a Jey Uso, or it's Seth Rollins, it's a Judgment Day. They've done some like just pure matches starting the show within the last, I guess, year at the end of the day. But yeah, LA Knight getting the win. It was a good match. There was that botch that happened. You can't ignore it. It didn't look good.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way. But the brawl happened. You knew that was going to happen when all the superstars came out. I do feel the superstars coming out, yes, although it's meant to build the battle royal. But at the end of the day, I think it took away from just the match itself, because this match was just built because they were two guys that didn't like each other, and then it was like, oh well, they're also in the battle royal, so all the battle royal people can show up, and then the people in the battle royal started a brawl, and it's like, okay, whatever. It's the same thing we see. They did this when they were building the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They do it when they build big multi-man matches like the Money in the Bank. They do it all the time. I'm not going to hammer it down and say they should stop doing it. I understand the purpose of it. It's fine. The match is all right. The result is good because LA Knight getting a win over Sheamus is good. Yes, Sheamus is in a limbo, despite less than a year ago being on top of the world after his match with Gunther. I don't know where they take Sheamus. That's another thing, is like, Sheamus is such a good talent. I don't know where they take it. But that's the biggest thing, is with LA Knight winning, I don't know if I see him winning tonight in the Battle Royal. This is the thing. Should he, is the question. Well, whose game is it? It's LA Knight game.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, that's the thing. He should win. It's a big match. Keep in mind, he was in January, and he's wrestling in the Pitch Black match. This is his second match that's sponsored this year. And at the end of the day, like, he came out of that match looking better, and now he's in this match looking just as good. I think he needs to win, but I don't think he does. My gut tells me he's not.
Yeah.
But I want to be proven wrong.
Exact same as you, Coby. I mean, it's just, this Battle Royale was the perfect excuse to get him a victory, to be honest, as well. Right? Obviously, they did it for sponsored reasons, but it makes a lot of sense for him to get the victory. It truly, truly does. Now, you mentioned that botch, Coby. And, I mean, whenever a botch happens in wrestling, it's usually both guys' fault, a miscommunication. I think that's what this was. But do you think that botch on the show last night could actually hurt his push, Coby?
I think it's a matter of, as a producer, they might not want him to use it again. Or not again. They don't want him to overexpose that jump to the top rope. That's to me, that's the instant reaction you're gonna have. Is, yes, that botch happened. I don't think it's gonna hurt him. He's not spiking people on their heads. Yes, it's a botch that happened, but what is that? His first botch in a year on the main roster? Like, you're not gonna there's nothing major to put stake into them saying, oh, you botched, you're done, you're out of here, get out. Like, nothing's going to be said like that.
I hope you're right.
I think it's more of, it's going to be like, okay, maybe we don't do that this next match you have. Like, if he's in the final four or whatever, don't do that move yet. Or do it and prove it's not a move you can't do anymore. Like, I could see that be the other way. But I don't see them trying to overexpose that jump to the top rope, because it's not a feat of strength, but it's a feat of athleticism that, I mean, the last person to kind of do it was Pat McAfee, who did it a bit. Like, I mean, LA Knight's doing it and he looks good, but it's also it's also hard to do. I'll say that. Like,
it does hurt his push. They're idiots.
Yeah,
If it
absolutely.
was one bad botch,
Assuming-
Charlotte Flair botched a move 2 weeks ago, and she's still in a triple threat women's title match.
It's
Yeah,
just they've
come
done
on,
it before,
these
haven't they?
Things, yeah, but these things happen.
They
These
do.
things
They
happen.
absolutely do. Nobody got hurt. But they've done it before when somebody's rising up the ranks and then there's some small botch. And then when there's a major botch, like I don't want to name any names, but certain superstars in the last decade have, not been it's not been uncommon for them to have a few botches. They've not even their botch hasn't been stopped at all. I've always found it fascinating. But we managed to get rid of Clark off the show today, guys, right? We managed to have a day without him. And look, he's just flooding our comments with ailing like, yeah, chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
now we love you, Clark, and he'll be back for our review show tomorrow for SummerSlam. But talking about SummerSlam, 2 people who will not be, actually 3 people who will not be on SummerSlam is Grayson Waller, Bailey, and Io Sky.
Waller's in the Battle Royal.
Never mind. Waller will be on the show, but Bailey and Io Sky will not be. But they were on the Grayson Waller effect last night. Grayson Waller invited out Io Sky and Bailey. Io Sky tucked the chair. She was clearly meant to be the main person in this interview. And that's no surprise. She is Mrs. Money in the Bank. You want to find out, is she going to cash in? When she's going to cash in? All of that. And Grayson Waller, off the bat, decided to ask him that. And ask her that. And what happened? Bailey grabbed the mic and answered it for her. Io Sky, once again, did not look pleased. It's so obvious now that the tensions between them are reaching almost a boiling point. I think Bailey's going to prevent her from cashing in when it eventually happens. But there was no time for Io to be able to react to this. Why? Because Shotzi Blackheart returned. However, it wasn't Shotzi in the tank. Instead, it was Zelina Vega. Shotzi was standing behind Bailey. Bailey then just started running out of the arena, and Shotzi chased after her with a shaver. But Carter, let me know your thoughts on this segment.
Love everything about it. I think this is an example of how the big company is booking women's matches fantastically. The whole Grayson Waller effect was hilarious. Grayson, I'm sorry, we Americans, we could do some good banter too. But no, the Shotzi bit with I love that they're leaning into her personality. She reviews horror movies and stuff, so her coming out with the tank with the shaved head and chasing Bailey around the ring, man, it's just such a good angle. And then Zelina too, she's got the gamer thing, the anime thing going. So the fact that she's pairing with Shotzi is just like fantastic. I love the booking. I thought it was a great match too. I was watching it with my dad, and my dad goes, Carter, this is really easy to watch this kind of wrestling. So I was just like, I just thought it was a great example of leaning into all these characters in a great way to build up a fun match. I know it's a little unrelated to tomorrow. I know no one's on the card for SummerSlam, but I just thought it was really fun. Between LA Knight and this part, I thought that kind of kept the show from being like a little too mid, like we were talking about at the beginning. And I love women wrestlers and tanks. It's hard to, so Shotzi, keep bringing that tank out. I love it. We all love it. Put all your friends in the tank. It's just such a great visual to have a someone coming out, and as little as it is, it's the best. So I really like this bit. I thought it kind of made the show for me. It made it really fun, and kind of kept it from being a little boring, a little, as we say on the internet, a little mid.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might be one of my favorite quotes in the history of this podcast. I love women's wrestling and tanks. But I absolutely do agree with you, Carter. It was a very fun segment, and I'm absolutely interested in this. Now, what I found fascinating about it is ever since Shotzi's come up to the main roster, pretty much none of the fans have cared for her. She came out last night on SmackDown. Everyone was chanting Shotzi, Shotzi, Shotzi. This storyline, when it started a few weeks ago at Money in the Bank, or the night before Money in the Bank, everybody was criticizing it and off the bat. I didn't understand that. But the criticism clearly, it had no substance to it, because she's gotten over from this already. But talking about things getting over, a certain stable has started, and it's already over. And that stable is, of course, the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley. So, last night on SmackDown, Butch and Holland took on the OC. The match was fine, nothing noteworthy. I'm a fan of all 4 people in this match, but it was mid. However, the Street Profits came out in their nice new suits, lovely suits, and caused absolute havoc and a disqualification. The Street Profits were standing tall. The crowd was going nuts for them. They then walked back up the entrance ramp, and then down comes Bobby Lashley, and they're all standing there together. Now, everybody online's calling these guys the Wall Street Profits. Now, I'm not sure if that's an official name. I don't think it is, but that is, I mean, I could easily see that being what ends up happening. I personally would like to see Carmelo Hayes added in there now as well, especially with Trick Williams saying he's going to do his own thing. So that could certainly be an interesting route to go. And maybe these guys could be the next evolution, like you suggested a couple of weeks ago, Coby. But David, give me your thoughts on this segment. Do you think that this faction is, a big future in WWE?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as you said, the match was nothing really. No fault of any of the guys involved. It was starting to get somewhere, and then it just stopped because the angle was more important. The match was just a filler to get you to the eventual outcome. I haven't had a chance to talk about this group since they've been teased. I haven't been on any of the review shows for any of these segments. I think this has the potential to be one of WWE's most interesting factions in years if they do it properly. Said the same thing about the Hurt Business years ago when Bobby led that. I agree when with, I can't remember who it was a few weeks ago that said, I think Coby said that this isn't just Hurt Business 2.0 and it shouldn't be Hurt Business 2.0. There should be a new thing, and I like this kind of evolution idea that was brought up. They look great tonight. The Profits looked fantastic. Lashley looked fantastic. Again, the segment wasn't much. It was just kind of more confirmation of what we already knew, that this was more than just a couple of weeks interaction. That this seems to be a long-term stable plan. And yeah, I mean, I would 100% add Mello in there as well, because I think Mello, if you get Lashley, Mello, and the Profits, that's your that will be a really interesting really interesting stable, especially if Mello is kind of still on NXT and kind of sort of leading the charge in NXT with this stable, and Bobby kind of pushing up the ranks on Raw, or whether they SmackDown, or whether they save it until Mello comes up as well and then they add him later. But I thought this stable has got so much potential, and I think that Street Profits should absolutely down the road beat Kevin and Sami for the tag titles. I think a heel. This should certainly be a program at the very least, because heel Profits versus face KO and Sami when KO is healed should be excellent, and I'm really, really excited for the future of all these guys.
Absolutely, and I love that potential feud. I really do, because I mean, you could do Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. That's why. Having a tag team like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with his 2 single competitors who are actually, they are a tag team, but they're also great singles, competitors as well. That means when you have a faction such as, the Wall Street Profits coming along, then you can do a lot of fun and interesting matches for it. And that is something which, is very exciting. It's something which is very fun, this faction. I mean, the one issue which, you do have, and Coby just put it in the private chat we have here at the podcast, is you've got to work out how, you can really get them from currently being that face stable, which they already are, as they're over as anything with the fans, to getting them to be heels. Because currently, I mean, they beat up, 2 babyface tag teams in this match. And yet everyone was like, yes, yes, yes. They weren't actually doing yes chants, but they might as well have been. And yeah, they got the cheers. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's going to be very difficult to get these guys hated. These guys might just be one of those factions where they're bad people. They're doing bad things. They're not doing things the way they're meant to be done. But everybody loves them for it anyway. I mean, Bullet Club is a great example back in 2016. But now let's move on and let's talk about well, what was formerly another stable, and that was the Bloodline. But the Bloodline, well, it's in shatters nowadays, isn't it? As Jey Uso will be taking on Roman Reigns tonight in just a few hours at WWE SummerSlam. But on last night's episode of SmackDown, Paul Heyman came out and explained how Roman Reigns didn't want the show to, he didn't want it to get to this point. He didn't want it to come to tribal combat, to go as far as tribal combat, because it means so much in the family. Heyman then aired a video package, and this, well, that was, it was a great video package. It truly was, but it kind of did just prove what, you feared yesterday, David, that it's just a no DQ match, and that's, how many names do we need for a no DQ match? But then Jey Uso came out and interrupted Paul Heyman, followed by Solo Sikoa. And Jey explained to Solo how Reigns, he will do the same thing to Solo that Jey did to him. And this was basically the exact same promo Sammy gave to Jey. And Jey didn't listen, and, well, I thought neither did Solo. However, Heyman then tried to, ask Solo to step back for a minute, and Solo was having none of it. Out of nowhere, Jey Uso super kick to Solo Sikoa. And, yep, that led to a match in the main event just 24 hours prior to Jey Uso's biggest match of his career. Main eventing not just a SummerSlam, but a stadium SummerSlam. A big deal. Everybody dreams about this if you are a professional wrestler. But the match between Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa was fine. If they were given more time on another night, they could do better, but it was fine. It advanced the storyline. It did what it needed to do. Jey Uso, got himself the victory just, 24 hours prior to, the big match. So he obviously needed that. It was obviously very predictable. However, if I'm being completely honest here, I've got two things to say about it. Firstly, completely honest, I don't think this match was needed. I really don't. I think it slightly hurt Solo and was just unnecessary. And the second thing I got to say is, why wasn't Roman on the show 24 hours before SummerSlam? Come on, guys. I don't get it whatsoever. But Carter, I'll head to you first this time. What was your thoughts on the segment and then the match which followed between Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa?
Well, it's funny you say that. Roman, he can, just mentioning his name is almost good enough for SmackDown. So, I mean, Paul Heyman was Paul Heyman, one of the best talkers in the business. It was great, but it is kind of what made last night. It was a great, great segment, great match, but it was very predictable. It leads up to the big question tonight: can Jey Uso beat Roman Reigns? That's what's in my head, and it kind of contributes to that question, but nothing special, no kind of sparks flying. It's very predictable. So, it's like, AEW's Collision tonight. It was a very safe thing to do, but yeah, I think hurt Solo a little bit, but it was a good enough build up. I give it maybe a B-, C+. I thought it was good enough to build up the story for SummerSlam.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that there. It did, it built it enough. And at the same time, there's been a lot of build for this story. I do get that argument already that, it didn't really need that much build on the show. But even still, you're trying to get, last minute, well, I'd say pay-per-view buys is now Peacock or WWE Network buys internationally. And I don't know why Roman wasn't on this show. I really don't. David, do you think I'm being a little too harsh on this?
No, not at all. In fact, I'm probably going to be harsher. Oh, crikey. So, okay. Every single thing we saw on this show today with the Bloodline is stuff we've seen before. We've seen Paul Heyman say that Jey was responsible for Jimmy. We've seen Jey come out and say he's going to put Roman through a table and hit him with a chair. And we saw that a few weeks ago in the Roman segment. The video package was very well done, but it didn't tell you anything beyond what we already knew, that it's important. I thought the match was fine, not needed on the card at all. I expected the post-match angle when the beatdown started that it was going to be a pulmonization and Jey was going to take Solo out. If that was the story they were telling, they told it very badly because Solo got hit a couple of times with a chair and that was your lot. it's obviously because they want Solo in the match tonight, so you can't really take him out that much. So that felt like a waste of opportunity. It just genuinely, and I mean this kind of, I've got 2 points to make. First of all, if Roman was not going to be on the show, I genuinely wouldn't have had any of it. I would have had the video package. I would have done a bigger video package than just what we had. We should have had the history of Roman and Jay. We should have had, and then all the stuff then later in the show. Do it as a segment by segment by segment thing going through the show. Exactly what they did with the women's triple threat with the 3 different segments, which I would have used the main event slot to build, because I think that match needs building a lot more than Roman and Jay does. So I would have used the main event segment, maybe have a match, maybe have Asuka beat somebody, or just have a big main event segment, so anything, just to really cement that match for the card, because Roman and Jay frankly doesn't need it. Also, we've gone back and forth a lot over the last few months about whether we think this story needs the title, the Roman and Jay story. I'm starting to feel like that Roman and Jay may be hampered by the fact that the title is on the line. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because I think as soon as the title goes on the line, nobody buys Jey Uso is winning this. I think if this was just for the head of the table, with a Roman on the ropes, and losing the support of his family, I think this main event match is much more interesting because either of them has about an equal shot of winning.
Yes.
But when the title is on the line, like, I'm going back through the story, Roman didn't really need the title at Money in the Bank. He didn't really need the title the month before. And we kept kind of being there and saying, Roman does need the title. And I said myself, Roman needed the title, and I defended that for a while. But the more I look at this, the more I'm thinking, a main event match for Roman's identity, all he has left, the head of the table identity within his own family, under threat. Is that not kind of, is that not more interesting? I'm not sure.
I mean, very rarely do I disagree with you, David, and I absolutely do not disagree with you on any of what you just said. That a promo package is, throughout the night, that would have been good enough, I'd say, if Roman wasn't, able to be there. I still think he should have been there. But the women's storyline, could have used that main event slot. It could have used, perhaps a promo earlier in the night, and then the main event slot as well, to really build that story heading into SummerSlam. I would have been more than fine with that one. Yeah, like I said, very rarely do I disagree with you, but we actually did disagree last night on Take It to the Table, and that episode of Chaos's Take It to the Table will be out on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel this week. Cheap plug there, but make sure you guys subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss Take It to the Table later this week. But Coby, what did you think about this main event match? Do you think that both me and David are being a bit too harsh on it? Or do you, agree with Carter that, it was a fun match and did its job?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is I do agree with that it was a match that, I mean, it's not a tremendous match. It's not going down as one of the matches of the month. It's not going to be going down as one of the matches of the week. It was, I think you can argue it was either the second best or the best match of the night. That's not saying too much, though. At the end of the day, they built more allure and aura towards what Tribal Combat meant, because there was that promo video that Paul Heyman introduced. I don't want to say for sure he narrated it, but he might have.
He did.
I think it was his voice. I'm pretty sure it was. But at the end of the day, they added it. Yes, they didn't add any they didn't explain any major rules or anything like that. They didn't say how to win it, but it was, the biggest thing is they really nailed down the fact that there's going to be a definite winner out of this match. I don't know what the heck that means. That makes me interested. I think Paul Heyman always, whenever you have Paul Heyman in the ring, he does his job. He's he's the best in the business on the mic as a manager. He is. He did his job. Jey Uso did his job. Sikoa questioning Heyman or giving that look to Heyman. I think that was good. That added to okay, this actually happened, and it wasn't it wasn't a nothing show. I do think there wasn't a lot of stuff. It was a go home show, but I liked that detail. I thought the promo was top notch. The match was what it needed to be. I think the biggest thing is the fact that the Universal title now, then the double title. Now it's the Undisputed Universal Championship or whatever, WWE Universal, whatever it is. The double title, now it's single title. I think it's so ingrained in the character that the fact of the matter is you can't. It is hard to remove that from Roman Reigns because that's the character. Yes, you can argue if he doesn't have the title, he isn't the most powerful person on the show or in the company, blah, blah, blah. You can argue that. But I think the fact of the matter is it's so ingrained in the character that I don't necessarily think this rivalry is the top rivalry of the company if you don't have that title on Roman Reigns. That's kind of my statement upon that. At the end of the day, like I want to know whether or not we see something big here, because we look in the future and we see WrestleMania 40 is next year. At the end of the day, a Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns match is not the biggest match you can do on that show. It's not. WrestleMania 40 needs a massive match. And I'm not talking about a Brock Roman rematch. I'm not talking about a Cena match. I'm not talking about Edge. So I want to know if something happens with The Rock tonight. At the end of the day, this is the place. If you have Rock for next year's Mania, this is the place you do something with The Rock. You have The Rock show up. He does something. He lays someone out. Do you risk the match being a no contest? Yes, you do. I don't think that's the move. Is you actually have to have Rock show up after the match. If Roman stands tall, you have the Rock show up. At the end of the day, I don't know where else we go. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns is not a WrestleMania 40 main event to me. Wow. It's not.
That's a big statement from you there. I personally disagree, but fair enough. Again, I love the parallels to the Rocky storyline that Clark pitched months ago. So that's why I would like that. Yeah. I mean, I was away from SummerSlam, and my cats are clearly in the mood because you guys missed it. We talk about cats running in all the time on the show. My cat just had an entire wrestling match behind you during that take, Coby. But go on, David. What do you want to add to this?
I just wanted to say, I think that, to go off that point, all of the, I think, you say that Jay Roman wouldn't feel like the biggest story in the company without the title, but I disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is I think not having the Roman Jay is still a massive match around the bloodline. I think if Cody won the title at Mania, which I still think he should have, Cody versus Brock, I think, is more interesting. And I also think Roman versus Rock is more interesting. Because if Roman versus Rock at Mania 40, if Roman still has the title, people are going to go, oh, we got 6 more months of this then. And then, because like I said, my dog has more chance of winning the title than The Rock does at Mania. So that's another year then, because then he's not losing it until at least the next SummerSlam. And so fans are just like, oh, okay, who's doing it now then? I just think if we had Cody win the title at Mania, with hindsight now, I do think that it would have made more storylines more interesting rather than just Roman's. And I do think the Roman storylines will be more interesting. Yeah. But that's just my...
I do actually see a lot of what you're saying there, David. I personally, right? I mean, if Rock versus Roman is the direction they're going in at WrestleMania, this is going to sound very New Japan of me. I would not mind, if Roman, won at Mania, defeated Rock, and it was like, oh, another 6 months. Then at Backlash, we have the Breaker shock. And Bron Breakker, in his first main roster match, shockingly defeats Roman Reigns to the World Heavyweight Championship. He becomes the Kazuchika Okada of WWE. No, I know that's not how it works. I know it's not how it works.
Push
marketing-wise, yeah, but... Oh, from booking perspective, I love when New Japan do that. But guys, hopefully we love what WWE do tonight at SummerSlam in just a few short hours. And we hope that you guys loved what we've done here today on the show. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Twitch, please give us a follow. If you're an audio-only listener over on Spotify, a 5-star, cheeky 5-star review would be very much appreciated. But we back you guys the same time tomorrow for an hour special when we give our SummerSlam review. Thank you, Coby. Thank you, David. And thank you, Carter. we will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy SummerSlam.